All right, so let's picture the evening of May 22nd of 2017 in Manchester. The atmosphere at the Manchester Arena was nothing short of electric. Thousands, and I really mean thousands, of Ariana Grande fans, mostly young people, teenagers, families, had flocked to the venue for what was supposed to be an unforgettable night of music.
Yeah, it was packed. You can imagine the excitement, the buzz in the air. These were fans waiting for their idol, many experiencing their first ever concert, clutching merchandise, waving glow sticks. It was all so innocent, wasn't it?
Exactly, it was. Ariana's performance wrapped up just before 10:30 that night, and the crowd started spilling out of the arena. But then at 10:31 p.m, everything changed. In the middle of the foyer, the city room it's called, a bomb was detonated. A massive explosion. It was later confirmed as a TATP nail bomb.
Right at the exit where people were leaving?
Yes, and that's the horrific part. It was deliberately timed and placed to hit as many people as possible while they were packed tightly, leaving the concert. 22 innocent lives were taken, some as young as 8 years old, and a staggering 1,017 others were injured. The whole scene descended into chaos.
It's hard to even fathom. Parents waiting to pick up their kids, fans heading home, and then this unimaginable terror strikes. What happened immediately after?
The aftermath was sheer pandemonium. People were screaming, crying, trying to find their loved ones in the chaos. Families were separated, some desperately searching for missing kids or friends in the crowd. And the sounds, it wasn't just the alarms, but actual silence in places where shock seemed to settle in.
Oh my gosh. And the emergency services? What about their response? It must have been overwhelming for them as well.
Absolutely, it was beyond overwhelming. Within minutes, British Transport Police were on site, calling for urgent backup. It wasn't clear initially what had happened. Some reports even mentioned gunfire. But the truth became apparent quickly. Ambulances started arriving, 60 in total, and over 59 people were rushed to nearby hospitals. Still, the sheer volume of casualties caused delays, with scores of walking wounded treated at the scene itself.
And it wasn't just physical injuries, was it? The psychological trauma from something like this.
Yes, that's right. Many survivors, even those who weren't physically hurt, faced deep emotional scars. The impact on the community, the families of victims, it's just immense. And remember, the lack of personnel in crucial areas played a role. 2 constables who were meant to patrol the foyer were seen leaving for a meal break earlier on.
You're telling me they weren't there? That area wasn't covered?
Exactly. Plus, reports from witnesses were given to security staff about a suspicious man with a backpack in the hours before the blast. There were, sadly, missed opportunities to intervene.
That just adds to the heartbreak. It's like thinking about what might have been, isn't it?
It's tragic in every sense of the word. The night was meant to bring joy to so many young people and their families, but it ended in heartbreak and devastation.
It's hard to grasp the level of devastation that unfolded, but to truly understand how something so horrifying could happen, we need to look more closely at the man behind it, Salman Abedi. He was a 22-year-old British-born citizen from Manchester, whose path to radicalization was deeply personal and shaped by outside influences.
And his family's link to Libya played a big part in that, didn't it?
Absolutely. You see, Abedi's parents were Libyan refugees who fled to the UK during the Gaddafi regime. In 2011, during the Libyan civil war, he and his brother Hashem actually returned to Libya to join the fight. It's there that he likely came into contact with extremist ideologies, meeting individuals tied to Al-Qaeda and ISIS factions.
Wait, so he'd already been exposed to these radical groups way before the attack?
Exactly. And those experiences seem to lay the foundation for his later actions. Beyond his time in Libya, Abedi was reportedly angered by what he saw as injustices abroad, images and stories of children suffering in conflict zones, particularly in Syria. This combination of personal loss and exposure to extremist rhetoric pushed him further down that dangerous path.
That's chilling, especially knowing how calculated his actions were.
They truly were. His return to the UK from Libya, just days before the bombing, was part of a meticulous plan. Over that short period, he purchased the materials for the TATP nail bomb he would eventually use, assembling it alone in a Manchester flat. The bomb itself was constructed with devastating intent, designed to inflict maximum harm with shrapnel, like nuts and bolts packed in.
And no one noticed or reported anything suspicious?
Well, there were some warnings. People flagged his erratic behaviour and even his extremist views years before the attack. But, unfortunately, he fell through the cracks. Even in the days leading up to the bombing, closed-circuit TV showed him scouting out the city room. He was caught on camera at least 3 times before the attack.
I can't help but think someone should have pieced all of this together.
It's one of the harsh realities of counter-terrorism work. MI5 later admitted they could have acted faster on intelligence they had, but by the time they realised the risk, it was too late.
And what about his brother, Salman Abedi? He wasn't just in the background, was he?
No, not at all. Hashem played a significant role, helping source some of the materials for the bomb and coordinating with Salman from Libya. After a lengthy trial, he was convicted of 22 counts of murder, conspiracy to cause explosions, and attempted murder. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment, with a minimum term of 55 years. That's the longest minimum sentence ever handed down by a British court for such a crime.
It's a small victory for justice, but it feels like it can never truly make up for what happened.
That's true. The impacts of that night stretched beyond just one family. It tore apart a community, and the aftermath will be felt for generations. But understanding their motives and actions, as harrowing as that is, helps shed light on how these tragic events unfolded in the first place.
After such a heartbreaking and devastating event, what truly stands out is the incredible resilience shown by the people of Manchester. Just 2 weeks after the attack, Ariana Grande returned to host the One Love Manchester benefit concert. It was an extraordinary act of courage and unity, raising over 17 million for victims and their families.
And it wasn't just about the money, was it? The concert felt like this. This moment of defiance, of unity against hate. There were huge names involved too, like Miley Cyrus, Pharrell Williams, and even Manchester's own Take That. That crowd singing together, it gave me chills just watching it.
Exactly. It became an emblem of solidarity, showing the world that even in tragedy, communities can rally together and fight back with love. But beyond the emotional response, there were significant changes to security and legislation as well. Within days, the UK's terror threat level was raised to critical. Armed police were deployed across cities, and Operation Tempera, the contingency for major attacks, kicked in, bringing military personnel to public areas.
Right, and you can see how that immediate response calmed people down, at least a little, knowing something was being done. But there were also those long-term changes, like the push for Martin's Law. That's the venue security legislation, named after one of the victims, isn't it?
Yes, Martin Hett. His family championed stronger safety measures at public venues. The proposed law, which aims to require stronger security checks, has become a cornerstone in efforts to prevent such attacks in the future. And of course, we had the public inquiries. They exposed numerous failures, from insufficient bag searches at the arena to miscommunications among emergency responders.
Miscommunications that cost lives, you mean?
Precisely. One finding that shocked many was how the Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service didn't even arrive on site for 2 hours due to poor coordination. That delay robbed people of critical, life-saving care. The inquiry also criticised the actions of certain individuals, like the security worker who ignored concerns over being labelled racist instead of intercepting Salman Abedi.
All those missed opportunities are just devastating to hear about. But do you think these findings really made a difference?
Absolutely they have. MI5 and counter-terrorism units have since taken major steps to act faster on intelligence, tightening protocols to catch red flags earlier. It's all part of a learning process, as painful as that is to acknowledge. The goal is to make sure nothing like this ever happens again.
And Manchester itself, you feel like it's grown stronger in its identity, don't you? I mean, the Glade of Light Memorial, the outpouring of support.
Exactly. The city has become a symbol of resilience. That memorial by Manchester Cathedral is a quiet but powerful reminder of those we lost. and of the strength we saw in every response, from the victims' families to emergency crews and everyday citizens who stepped up.
It's a legacy of love overcoming hate, isn't it?
It truly is. And as we bring this to a close, let's not just remember the sadness of that night, but also the incredible strength shown by survivors, their families, and the entire Manchester community. In tragedy, they found a way to move forward together. That's the message we carry with us.